Yeah.
That's a little better.
Are you? I think. All right, yo, we good. We good.
All right. We live right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, shoot, man. Welcome to another episode of We're Not the Same. This is episode what? Five or six now?
Six episodes.
Yeah. See, we're making moves over here, man. I got my guy Shaq with me, of course, alongside with a very, very special guest, freshly promoted associate head coach of the University of Washington Huskies. Go Dogs, right? Seattle high school hoops legend with I think it was like 4 straight state championships at Garfield. D-League Sportsmanship Award winner. I mean, we'd be here all day if I rattled off all this man's accomplishment. Of course, I'm talking about none other than Will Conroy. Chill. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for joining us, man. Straight out the gate, man. We got to talk about the most important things in life, man. And that's the little ones, man. I've been doing my research on you, man. You got some athletes, man. Tell me about that, man. Your daughter's looking like Usain Bolt out here, dusting the competition on the track.
I'm not taking none of the credit. I'm not taking none of the credit, man. I won't because I want to get let in my house when I get home. So
right.
I'm gonna give it all to the wife.
Right. That's fire.
I just make sure they work.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Chill, and for you guys that don't know, Chill is Will Conroy's nickname up in the Pacific Northwest. Of course, I think I'm gonna be retiring here in about 8 years, and I'm pretty sure I'm going for that Arizona State, coaching staff. And the first thing I'm doing, I'm getting on Chill Conroy Jr. Anything you want to tell us about us? I mean, or tell us about him? Steph alluded that he learned 2 new moves watching him. Like, is it crazy seeing his progress at such a young age?
You know what is crazy? It's crazy to see how many media sites pick him to promote him. Because, there's a million kids playing this game and then, they find one and one turns out to be a media darling. And it's just crazy. Like for him, he's just one of those kid faces that the other kids like. We went to Green Lake Park the other day just to play outside on a Sunday, and just a random Sunday, and we're hooping, and we're obviously he's playing with the older guys and they're fouling him, beating him up, which is great. And then afterwards, he figures it out, starts getting a couple baskets, and then there's an audience standing there watching his hoop. And every time he scores, they're cheering for him. And then afterwards, there's middle school and high school kids asking to take pictures. Can't make this crap up, man. You just can't.
Was that the intro?
Huh?
Was that the intro to like the media? Like, he kind of like was like his coming out party?
No, I think we did what's crazy is, so maybe when he was 4, and you can look on my Instagram page, I had posted him doing elbow to elbow slide jump shots. He was 4 or 5. I think he went 9 out of 10, or maybe 10 out of 10. And then that went viral. And then I can't remember what big site picked it up, and it was like dad goals. And then maybe 6 or 7 months later, he dunked on a neighbor, and they put that on like Slam. It hit every website. So then that kind of started it a little bit then. But just, the foundations of everyday drilling, working, drilling, doing all of that stuff. And then we get to EBC camp, Ballers Life Camp last year. And it was the first time, where a bunch of media publications was there, and he had a pretty good camp, and they posted that big video, and all the NBA guys responded to it, and it was pretty awesome.
How many hours a day do you say you guys get it in?
Man, I'm trying to. You read the book by Malcolm Gladwell?
Which one?
10,000 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm trying to get 10,000 hours.
Gotcha.
They said if you get 10,000 hours before you're 20 years old, you can perfect your craft.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being with Kobe. He wanted to get 20,000 hours.
That's what I was going to ask you about, speaking to your Instagram. You had a post
Yeah.
when you were playing, preseason summer league with the Lakers, and you spoke to Kobe's work ethic. Do you got any stories or anything that you want to allude to just how insane he was?
I just remember, and I tell my players this. I remember all the guys the rookies that they just drafted was Andrew Bynum. It was Von Wafer. And then Smush Parker they had just signed him to a free agent deal. Myself and I think Devin Green out of a HBCU. They just signed all of us to come in to camp. Now, I was a big Kobe fan in college. Me and Brandon Roy was. So as part of the decision why I decided to go to Los Angeles for training camp, when I could have went to like 4 or 5 different teams, probably could have had a better opportunity of making a team, but I wanted to see him up close and personal. And I didn't want to, obviously it was real, but I wanted to get close to it and see what it looked like. And I remember one morning coming in, and we stayed at the hotel. And Shaq, you worked out for the Lakers before?
Not LA.
So the practice facility, the hotel that they made all the people that was trying to make the team was right behind the practice facility. So it was a 50-yard walk. So I remember waking up really early one morning, and I'm like, practice started like 10, 11, whatever it was later. We had a lot of vets. So I remember waking up at like 8 in the morning. I was like, man, I'm gonna be the first one in the gym. I'm gonna be the first one in there. I'm gonna show them that I belong. I walk over, the gate opens, it lets me in the gate. And I see an exotic car. I don't even remember if it had his name or whatever, his thing on his plates, but I'm like, okay, somebody in there, maybe somebody in there getting treatment. Now remember, I'm 21. I'm 21. So I get in there, and my man is in there box jumping in a full sweat, like jumping on a box like a medicine ball. All right. So I'm like, oh, hell no. He beat me to the gym. So I go up and ask our athletic trainer. I'm like, man, I know this dude's not like this dude. At this point, he was considered the best player in the world. So I go to our box trainer. Our trainer. I'm like, hey, how long is he? I'm like, how long has he been here? How long has he been here? And he was like, he's already ate breakfast. He's already lifted.
Crazy.
So he didn't say nothing to me, right? He didn't say nothing to me. So about maybe like a week later, I think we're in the locker room. We're together in the locker room. Now, mind you, he wasn't just gonna go out his way to speak to you, but I was kind of scared to speak to him. So he was like, hey, you thought you was gonna beat me to the gym? I did. He was like, never.
That's the one thing about Kobe, though. Like, you hear, like, anybody that's been around Kobe, that's been on the same team or like had a workout with him or something like that, they're always talking about, even guys that I guess were playing the Lakers, whether that be on the road or at home, and they try to get a workout in before the game or even the day before the game, try to come early and all that stuff. This always seems to be the same story. Like, you try to beat Kobe or you try to be the first one in the gym, and Kobe is just always in there. And it's not just, oh, he beat you by like a couple of minutes. No, he's already got a full workout in 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. And it'd be like 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning, whatever it is.
I remember coming in there one morning and watching my man. He was working out with Craig Hodges. And for an hour straight, he shot the same shot on the elbow. Nothing different. No other footwork, no other pivot, no other pump fake. It was catch, inside pivot, release. Catch, inside pivot, release. I was like, holy shit. Is this guy for real? Yeah. But he respected me because he seen that I had the same type of not the same talent, but he seen that I had the same kind of work ethic that he had. So I would go down there, even after the practice, I would go down there and I'll shag rebounds for him, kicking the balls. Like he let me come down there because he saw my work ethic.
Yeah, we're gonna speak on that a little bit later, man. Your work ethic, obviously, that's the success is a testament to all of that. We're gonna get into that a little bit later. I do want to shout out Craig Hodges though, man. Legendary shooter, man. Definitely good guy. I played against his son in Germany, so it's kind of crazy. And you played in Germany as well.
I did.
For Bayreuth, which is actually my first, like my rookie year. That was my first club or whatever.
Wow.
So yeah, it's crazy how small this basketball world is, man.
Absolutely. Small fraternity, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And okay, Garfield High School purple, UW purple. Is it safe to say that you bleed purple? And are you a UW super fan?
It's safe to say it. And I went to Washington Middle School, which is all on the same street. All on the same street. No, it's safe to say that. I am a super fan. If you ever watch our football team play, you think I played football here. I'm in on that stuff, man. And it's just, I'm really passionate on what I love and what I believe in. So if you part of that, you're gonna be a part of my passionate, you're gonna be in that. So if you what I believe in, whether it's my kids, my family, my players, they can feel that from me. So that's what it is.
So you was all in on UW even before you were old enough to play there, before you were in high school and everything like that? Like you grew up a UW fan?
I love UW football. I used to play football for a very long time. I love UW football when I was little, when I had Napoleon Kaufman, Jay Berry, Corey Dillon. I remember we used to play football in the neighborhood. I used to always say their names when I got the ball. Corey Dillon or Napoleon Kaufman. So I always loved UW football. That's when I was more thinking I would play football. But then once I got to high school, you start seeing the Fab Five, you start seeing all of these, programs, and you're like, man, okay, college basketball. And then Iverson was at Georgetown. Start seeing these programs, you're like, man, I kind of want to do that. But then as I got older, like my junior year, and I start thinking about like putting your city on your back and like representing your town and why is UW basketball not that good and all of that stuff. You're like, man, I can go down there and get it. I can make us good. So then my senior year, they recruited me my junior summer hard, Coach Byron Boudreaux. They didn't offer me until late in the summer, but then I wasn't ready to make a decision. Nobody knows this. I wasn't ready to make a decision. I kind of wanted to wait till I want to be a late, commit. And then they used the last scholarship. So on my profile, it says walk on. But what happened was I didn't take the scholarship. So they signed like their fourth or fifth guy. It may have been, I think the last signee was maybe Mike Jensen or maybe Anthony Washington. And then later in the year, we were playing Franklin High School at Franklin. And Aaron Brooks was a sophomore. I had a really good game in the UW.
Oregon Aaron Brooks. He was a sophomore, and the UW coaching staff was there, and I had a really big game. And then after the game, I hadn't talked to Coach Boudreaux in a while. He called me the next morning, and he was like, "Hey man, you ready to be a Husky? Stop playing." So at that point, I was kind of like, Pitt was recruiting me, Xavier was recruiting me, some other schools from out of the area, and I was like, man, I'm not taking no visits that far. I'm like, I'm not going that damn far. Like it was like coming on a visit, I was like, not happening. So I'm like, Coach Boo, you ain't got no scholarships. He was like, man, don't worry about that. We can figure that part out. You're an in-state dude. You guys can we can figure out ways to get to tuition raised for you to play. So that's how that worked out. And I ended up walking on here. But what happened was Anthony Washington did scholastically, it didn't work out for him. So I was able to take his scholarship before day one he started. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's love. But even if it hadn't, right? It was just whatever was on the paper. Like you were basically a full ride athlete.
Yeah, it was just a matter of time. It was just a matter of time.
That's love. I'm sure that gives you a lot of confidence too, coming from a prestigious institution like that. Where they're just like, man, we're gonna make it work no matter what. Like, don't even worry about it. That's the kind of confidence that you would need as an incoming freshman, right?
It does, but when you're that young, you green to everything. You don't know, man. You just walking and talking, and you don't pay attention. Yeah. Like now, as I'm a coach and I know the background of it, and having to be able to find finances and donors and all of this stuff. Now that I know all this stuff and no one was behind it, I would have thought a little different then. But back then, you walking around, you arrogant, you think you're the best thing that just got to campus, when you're not. So,
Right.
just
So you were teammates with B-Roy, obviously, what I mean, that's another Seattle legend, UW legend for sure. And he was a little bit older than you, right? So did he?
He's one
Oh,
younger.
oh, he's 1 year younger. Okay, see, because I was about to just ask, what were some of the influences from like your peers to kind of commit to UW, or was that just all you? It didn't matter like who was there, who would tell you.
I was the first one.
I bet.
They came after me.
Yeah.
I got them all in here.
Dope.
Once we changed the coaching staff, Coach Romar came in. Our team was really dominant when I was in high school. So, and I knew all those guys could play here. When Coach Rowe first got here, I was like, Coach, you got to go see Brandon Roy. You got to go see Trey Simmons. You got to go see Roydell Smiley. He was already committed to USC. I was like, you got to see these dudes, like they can play. And obviously, he went to see Trey. Trey was at Odessa in Texas. Trey Simmons, who played at great year in Europe.
Murder.
And I think Trey had I think Coach Dollar went to see him and he had 40-something the first time they watched him. And Coach Dollar came back, was like, we got to get that dude. And then when Coach went to go see Brandon, ironically, he goes to see Brandon on like a Monday or Tuesday night in Seattle. And they're playing like Inglemore, not really a great team. And Brandon was probably in one of his moves, like the game is easy. And Coach came back here and he was like, he's good, but he just doesn't have a motor. So I said, Coach, you got to go see him again. You got a bad batch. You got to go see my man again.
You said this as a freshman?
Yeah, or I was a sophomore.
Okay.
I was going to be. I can't even remember, but he says he goes and sees him again, and I think they played our rival or something. And he said Brandon put on a show. He said, "Okay, I see what you're saying," and then obviously we were just happy he came because Lute Olson was hot on the rest of his soul. He was hot on Brandon's trail. Like he wanted him to go to Arizona bad. And at that point, every kid in Seattle thought if you went to Arizona, you was going to the league because Jason Terry had just did it.
Point guard, you man.
Speaking of that first little wave at UW, like I think it's safe to say that you were kind of the pioneer to make it cool to stay in Seattle, especially for like the Northwest kids, and kind of put the city on your back, as you alluded to. How does that kind of like work in to like your recruiting process now, especially with so many homegrown guys that have came out of Seattle and just good players? Like you got guys like Tari, Marjan, then you got like Zach LaVine, of course, DeJounte, CJ Ellaby, the McDaniel brothers, Malachi. Like how do you tell them, or how do you tell certain players like in the high school scene, what's kind of your approach with them?
It's hard, obviously, because it's always hard to be a prophet in your own land. So you have a lot of people pulling at kids from other places. But what I tell kids is I've known all these guys or their parents since they've been babies. Okay. So I tell most of the kids this: when you go somewhere else, your business. When you come here, your family. And what I mean by that is when you're business and it don't work out, we got to go get the next one. When you're family, it has to work out. So when you're family, we can't just say, okay, I'm going to get the next kid. He's like, no, we got to get in the gym on Monday. So on Saturday, your ass play better. Make sense? And when you leave and go away, and obviously, Shaq, you did it at Arizona State. If there's a kid who's not performing, they're going to go recruit over him. We can't recruit over a kid here that's from here because you're not going to get the next one. That's just how it works. Obviously, then you just gotta pour into them. Like they gotta feel the love. What I notice a lot is the guys your former guys that you have, they'll do your recruiting for you. When they walk out of the door, if there was a lot of love in the relationship, I don't care about how many baskets they scored or that. If they felt they were loved and they grew up and they matured and they were nurtured during that important 4 years span of their lives, when they go from being a young boy to a young man, it's important. It's a very important stretch. It's monumental on which direction they go. So if they know they got someone in their lives that's going to lead them the right way, they'll always speak for you when they walk out of here.
Yeah, I think that is like a recurring theme when we talk about Seattle hoops. We talk about Seattle hoops quite a lot on the show and other shows, obviously, because Shaq and Ron, they're Seattle natives, JD as well. And we talk about just how deep the talent pool is here, and just not just, currently, but, through generations, right? And the way that you just explained it, it makes a lot of sense, So when you have like the high schools, you have, the colleges, and you have the pros, and everybody's doing their part and trying to like get the next generation, ready for that next level. That's an advantage that not a lot of areas in the United States have. So that family atmosphere, that family approach to things, especially when it comes to recruiting, right? I mean, this now, especially as a college coach, the recruiting craze and like just, the intense incentives and like the corruption that comes with it. And, it's really all about the parents a lot of times too, right? Where, parents are trying to compete with one another when they have like kids in the little leagues or whatever, and they're willing to get in fights with one another and all this kind of crazy stuff. And now you being a dad of a kid that is, without a doubt going to be, subjected to all this kind of stuff, if not already, how do you manage all of that?
Well, number one is we stay in the gym, number two is he doesn't have any social media. So half the stuff that's posted about him, he's never seen it. He doesn't see it. Mm-hmm. So like, it still surprises him that kids know who he is. So he'd be like, Dad, that dude knew who I was. I mean, like, yeah, I know he knew who you were. He doesn't know. So I just try to keep him pure. And I think, to go back to what you just talked about as far as like, parents competing with parents, I think it's because, kids are getting ranked and teams are getting ranked in the grade school level now, mm-hmm. which makes grassroots basketball better and more competitive, but it also makes it a little bit, it's making it more dangerous because it's not really about the player, it's about the parents and, well, your kid's not that good. Like I've literally heard a parent to my son say, why are you scared to guard him? He ain't that good. I've heard a dad say that loud. Now, as a dad protecting my child, you take the coaching thing out. And as a dad protecting my child, do I stand up and say something? Hey man, don't talk about my kids like that.
Yeah.
And that's how something happens. That's how friction happens at a game. Or I have no problem with you talking basketball talk, but my 11-year-old can't protect himself from a 37, 38-year-old. Yeah, why is that grown man saying I'm not that good?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And right. That's why you see things happen at basketball gyms and in football fields and wherever else, because it's just more stakes. Everybody wants to walk away. Nobody wants to see their kid put on a highlight tape bad. Nobody, you know what I mean? All this stuff plays a part in it, which makes it more competitive, but it also makes it a little bit more dangerous as far as that goes, and a little bit more personable with parents and competing with parents. Like a lot of times I tell Jamal Crawford, my best friend, him and Brendan Roy in IT, I tell those guys all the time, guys don't want their kids to beat our kids. They're trying to beat us.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't beat me as a player, so now they want to beat my son.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I get it. It just depends on what day I wake up. If I'm in one of those competitive moods, I might bring that fire to the gym. If I'm just in a chill mood, I might just sit back and just watch it all manifest. But, I have my days too where I'm like, no, ain't nobody gonna say nothing crazy today about my son. Like I'll be boisterous today. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just to kind of put out there, just want him to hoop. Just let him hoop. That's all I want to just hoop.
When you got guys
go ahead, Shaq.
When you got guys like, former Kentucky player, Keon Brooks coming in, Noah Williams, who dropped 40 in the Pac-12, Corin Johnson, I hope I said his name right. Those guys that are transferring in, how do you feel, how pivotal is the new rules in NCAA alongside with the transfer portal going year to year where guys probably aren't happy at their schools, and you got to kind of recruit them to a different situation, like you said, business versus family. How do you get those out-of-state guys, and how important do you think the transfer portal is right now?
It's very important, and it's the game. It's like It's like people talk about like I hear a lot of older people my age or older than me complain about social media and the usage of it or being on the phone and how much people are stuck to their phone. And I'm like, you better adapt because it ain't going back the other way. So it's just college basketball. You got to adapt. You got to adapt, and you got to try to be the best at that. You know, the transfer portal. Like that, I do like that the NCAA is letting people control their own narratives. Players and families control their own narratives. I mean, obviously I'm a coach, but if a coach can go take a new contract somewhere else and don't, you know, he's not binded to one spot, he can get up and go somewhere else, then I think a player should be able to. Now, with that being said, it makes it difficult because you have to recruit your own roster during the season. You know what I mean? Because now everyone's, whether it's former trainers, former high school coaches, contact with other universities during the recruiting process, they still have those relationships. So, you know, hey man, I see he should have been playing more than 10 minutes, man. Hey man, we you know what I mean? Like that's what's going on. So it's the game. It shouldn't, but it's the game. So you just have to be, you know, you have to be aware of it. And like I said, when you pour love into your guys, then they'll block out the outside noise. They'll be like, no, coach loves me. Coach pours into me. Coach spends time with me. And I think that's what's most important.
Euro, I'm gonna switch gears here for a second. If you got any more, questions, just let me know. But I gotta ask because you best friends with Maul, you best friends with B. Roy, you close with IT, all the Seattle guys. How many one-on-one phase was y'all having, and who would often win? Because I know you ain't no slouch, and I know you super competitive, and I know that demon come out.
You have reached heights that you can only dream of, right? But I think all three of those guys to a man will tell you that in a one-on-one situation with no reps and nobody policing it, it can get it can get pretty nasty. But, we know Jamal is unbelievable. Brandon's so big. He's got so much footwork. I tell him all the time, when we talk crap, I tell him, man, I taught you all that shit, man. I taught you all that, man. You came after me. So I remember he dropped 50 on the Suns, and he was like, I'm the best. Like our crew is called Home Team. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm the best in Home Team. I'm like, man, I taught you all that. I ain't even worried about what you're saying. What's crazy is, if you go back and you look at it, Jamal dropped 50, and like a week later, Brandon dropped 50, or maybe a couple of days later, Brandon dropped 50, and like a couple of days later, I dropped 50 something in the minor league. All three of us had 50. It's crazy.
That's wild.
Man, them Seattle Hoopers is different, man.
That's wild. That's wild. I actually got a personal story. You probably don't remember it, but we was playing Maul. I think it was in one of Maul's tourneys, or it might have been a league, but we was playing you guys in the championship. It was you, B. Roy, Jamal, all y'all was on one team. It was me, my homie Ron. I went out there, the first shot I shot was a corner three, and I airballed. And my homie Ron looked at me like, yo, don't start that shit today. Like, this ain't the day to do that. We'll lose by 150. So I eventually ended up, collecting my bearings, and I went crazy that game. I had the opportunity to hit the game-winning shot, and instead of pulling up for a jump shot, I'm like, I'm going to the rack. Can't nobody stop this. I probably got clothesline. It might have been you guarding me, but the rest was like, it ain't no way in hell we giving you this call in that setting. But I said all that to say I was in the bathroom, and B. Roy, you guys was in there. I was in there changing. We were about to dip. And you and B. Roy was talking. And he was like, yo, who's that kid on the other team? And you was like, whoop-de-woo, he going to Arizona State next year. And that was like my validation moment. Like, I may not have grew up in the inner city, but I was like, I'm still one of them ones. Like, I'm still one of them guys. Like, it was that solidifying. And I was walking in the parking lot, and I walked past you, and it was actually you. I think it was like I ain't gonna say the beverage, but you offered me a beverage. And I was like, nah, I'm cool. And on the ride home, I was like, damn, I wanted that beverage. But at the same time, I'm like, yo, they consider me one of those guys. So that was always a dope moment for me that stuck with me every stage of my career. When there's any self-doubt, I'm like, nah, like I'm solidified.
No, it's crazy. I remember that. I remember it. I remember you destroying us. You had young legs. You was athletic. You was fearless. And, in those settings, like, sometimes when we get to the gym, it's a second or third game, those all NBA dudes, they be like, hey, man, I ain't got it this one, man. Like, I ain't finna chase that young dude around. And you turn around, you got 36, 38. And we like, all right, who's guarding him this last play? I remember, Zach LaVine, same way. But one of the things that we love to do as a crew is we love to see who was coming next. You know what I mean? And then we try to figure out how we can help them, cross any adversity that they were gonna come by. So we would like to get your phone number and be like, hey man, call us, ask us whatever you need. Trying to give you the answers to the test before you get ready to take it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's a fact.
That's love, man.
That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Always appreciate
I
that.
think
So
every
thank
kid
you.
in the community has Jamal Crawford's phone number. I literally do.
Mm-hmm.
There's no kid in our community that can't say, I can't reach Jamal Crawford. It's unbelievable how he makes himself available to the whole community. And obviously, we all try to do the same thing, but I work. Jamal's rich already, so he can just pop up at your local community center and, be shooting with his son and y'all can intertwine.
Man, it seems like y'all got Seattle sold up from, on every level. What do we got to do to get the Supersonics back, man?
I think it's in motion, man. I think you won't hear nothing that's solid, because when you start hearing things that's solid, things get delayed. So I think they're trying to keep it really quiet. And I think it's just going to just boom, and it's just going to be here. Like one day you're going to wake up and they'll say, the NBA is expanding to Seattle. And I think that's kind of the way they want to do it. Because I think when the Sacramento Kings were supposed to move here a few years ago, I think that got out too early. And I didn't want to take the weight of the Sacramento Kings team anyway. You don't want to take nobody's NBA team away. You know how hard that is on a community, jobs, businesses, diehard fanatics of the sport. It's hard. I would have been happy to have a team, but to see a team taken from another city and state, that would have been hard. But I say that to say it got out too fast. It got out too fast, and they were able to give Sacramento enough time to stop it.
Right. But go ahead.
Go ahead, Euro.
No, well, I was just gonna, ask. So you're pretty confident that the Sonics are gonna, be a thing in the near future, maybe distant future?
Fam, I say this all the time. Think about this. 5 years ago, maybe 5, could be a little longer. The Seahawks were good, right? If Durant and Westbrook and Ibaka and all, they would have been good. The Manners, I think the Storm won the championship, and I think that the Sounders won the championship. So there you would have had 5 teams sports that would have been elite. The city would have been booming.
Yeah, man.
Just 5 or 6 years ago, it was a chance to all the way across the board, you could have been good.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever been done, right? Every professional team in a city winning a championship, or at least with the chance to. Yeah, that would have been major.
Yeah,
not 5 for sure. Not 5. Real quick question, which you ended up
did it not too long ago. Lakers and Dodgers did it, but I don't think the Sparks were in the championship, and I don't think their soccer team was there.
Right.
With you ending up at Minnesota shortly after B. Roy signing there, can you explain that situation? Was there how did that go down?
So I have played for that staff with the Rockets. So Coach Adelman, all his staff, I got really close with them when I was with the Rockets, and they had liked me a lot, but for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. So a year later, they went to Minnesota, and I go to Minnesota. They bring me in on a training camp deal, and did really well. But they had JJ Barea, Rittenauer, kid from UCLA. He probably played when you were at Arizona State. I can't remember. Malcolm Lee. Remember
He
him?
was right before me.
Malcolm Lee.
Yeah, he was right before
Malcolm
me.
Lee. And they may have another guard. So it just was, it just, I just needed to get back in the fold of the league because I went overseas. So I took it. But it was good for me to get out there again. And, the staff was like, we'll keep our eye on you. So the next year, when Brandon had got his deal in Portland, whatever they end up doing to him, he was a free agent. And I had been talking to the staff at Minnesota still. And they was like, we want to bring you in, make you play summer league. And I knew the general manager because the general manager at the time was he was my general manager when he was my owner of my Albuquerque Thunderbirds team in the D League. Was now the general manager for Minnesota Timberwolves. So me and him was in contact, and he was like, you think Brandon Roy would consider us? And I was like, I think so. I know he wants to play again. And I think that was the team that drafted him, if I'm correct. I think the Timberwolves drafted him and then traded him to Portland. So, there was a little bit of, history there. And they knew me and him was best friends. So, I try to, make sure I connected the dots, and they signed me, and then they signed him, or they signed him and then they signed me. But it was great. The only problem was we get there and he hurt his damn knee again. So when he hurt his knee, we start the season off 5-1 or something like that. He hurts his damn knee. He can't play no more. And I think our other two guard gets hurt. So they call me in the office and they like, hey, Will, we're gonna need your roster spot. We gotta go find another two guard. So they put me on staff. They put me as a scout. Mm-hmm. And we end up signing Josh Howard.
You speak on that a little bit, because I find that extremely interesting. Obviously, you mentioned it earlier when you was talking about your freshman and your sophomore year at UW, where you was already in your coach's ear about, talent that's coming up. So it's safe to say that you have an eye for just, that kind of thing. Talk to me about the transition. You're an active player in the NBA. They don't have a roster spot for you. And now all of a sudden, the coaching staff has that much faith in you to just, be a scout for them, essentially. Like, how quickly does that happen, and how did it happen?
It goes back to when I played here. I remember, I tell people this story all the time. We were playing UCLA at UCLA, and we were getting ready. It was mid-game, and a fan, all-timer, that's a fan for UCLA. I think Coach Romar told me the dude has been at all UCLA games for years. And I'm coming to the bench, like getting some Gatorade, and I'm walking to the back, to the bottom of the end of the bench to get the Gatorade. And the fan says, "Hey, Conroy, you're gonna be a great coach one day." Now, when you're a player, that's not the shit you want to hear.
That's disrespect, yeah.
When you're a player, you want to hear you're going to be a great NBA player one day. Mm-hmm. So when he said it, I was like, what's he talking about? Tripping. But as I matured and got older, it's the greatest compliment you can give to someone, because you can coach far longer than you can play. Mm-hmm. And I started to notice every summer I would come home, I would put all the high school guys through workouts. I'll put the top high school guys through workouts. Then I'll start getting, I would invite the college guys to come up and do the workouts. And then I would put together pro runs. And then I would work pros out. They would ask me to work them out. So I'm a pro, and half of my day would be dedicated to working pros out. Like I was working out Brandon, I was working out Spencer Hawes, I had Nick Collison, down the line, I was working these guys out. So
was that the beginning of Woodshop?
That a little bit. So that gave me my love for that part of it. So I started to really find a niche in that. And I was like, man, free of charge. I'm not charging you guys nothing. This is just what I like to do. So started doing that. Every summer I would come back, and then I would stay in contact with Coach Rowe, and I'd be like, man, I'm starting to like this coaching thing. And he always would tell me, play as long as you can, because you can't play again. Once you quit, you're done. So when I got to, what was my last place I played? Germany, maybe Germany.
Yeah, Vesta, Rasta Vesta.
Yeah, Rasta Vector. So I remember calling him. I'm like, Coach, I'm done with this. I'm not. I was a goal-driven person. Europe wasn't never in my goals. Money never motivated me. My goals motivate me. So the money was coming in. I was making a good living, making money playing basketball, but it wasn't fulfilling what I wanted. I just had my son. I think my daughter was on the way. I wanted to be around for that. And I called Coach and I'm like, I don't love this. I like it. I don't love doing this part. And he was like, well, play as long as you can. I'm like, nah, it's time to start something else. Right. So I'm starting to love that part. I'm starting to love helping others. And I came home, and then he was like, the sucky part was I didn't finish my degree when I was here. So I arrogant senior think he's going to the NBA. I left school after our last tournament game, and I was like, I'm on this NBA trail, work out for 20-something teams, and there's no time for school. And I had like 35 credits to complete. So when I got done, he was like, hey, you got to complete school. So my first year that he hired me, I was actually going to school too.
Wow.
So
that's dope. Yeah, looking at your like your resume and all of the little stops that you had, all the stints, it becomes very obvious that you were intentional about staying home as opposed to doing your thing overseas. So was the intent, was it that intention to just always trying to make it to the league, or you were just like what was if you can give percentages, like what was the main reason why you didn't want to do the overseas thing? You mentioned you didn't really have love for it like that. Of course, you had, a child and another one on the way, that obviously weighs into the decision as well, right?
As a kid, I remember, and obviously you guys can attest to this, you guys play, you write on your ball, right? You write on your ball, future NBA player, you write something on the wall. You got this thing that you look at every day. I used to cut out all the pictures and slam and put them on my walls. I had Iversons, I had all those guys on my wall. That's just what I put. I put everything into that basket. There was nothing else that I wanted to do but play in the league. So there was nobody that was going to tell me that I wasn't going to play in the league. So that's just kind of how I was driven. And once I did it and got a taste of it, I was like, I got to continue this. Now, if any kids is listening to this, I would tell you this: change your wording. Don't say you want to make the league, say you want to make it in the league. Because I believe if I would have had that mindset, then I probably would have had a 12, 13, 14, 15-year career, rather than saying I want to make it to the league. Does that make sense?
100%. So you think like some of the steam that was like, propelling you and pushing you to that, to that goal was gone after you had stepped foot on the court with Kobe, for example?
I wouldn't necessarily, but you'd be like, damn, I did it. Or when you finally you finally step out the paint to excel, you're like, damn, I did it. Damn, I scored today in the league, or I had a 3 today, or I dunked today in the league. Rather than saying like, I'm supposed to do that shit.
Right.
Supposed to do that. I'm one of the best ever. Like, that's what you should tell yourself. I mean, that's what the maniacal ones do. But you speak things into existence, whether good or bad. I tell people all the time, whatever you're telling yourself, whether it's right or wrong, your body's gonna follow it. Today, our team ran the hill, and if you tell your body that this hill is hard, your body's gonna follow that. This hill is gonna be hard to run. If you say, man, I eat this damn hill up. You're gonna go up that hill a couple times.
That's dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. Can you really fastly speak to wood shop and what it is?
So wood shop is a terminology I came up with for my workout, my workout groups that people come in and work. And here's the deal. Like I say wood shop, and think of it like this. Think of big ass lumber trees, right? Big ass like forest pine trees or whatever in the forest. And think of you having an axe, right? But think about on the top of that tree, every goal that you wanted is at the top of that tree. But we got to get it down, right? But there's no way it's coming down off of one swing, right? So you got to keep chopping, right? You got to keep chopping until it come down. Ooh, boom, and then all them goals come just trickling down and you can grab them. Then there's that next tree with some more goals, house, retirement fund, this, and we got to start chopping again, right? We got to start chopping again. So that's kind of my mindset on that. That's kind of how I envision woodshop.
That's dope.
Chopping, what we doing?
Yeah, that's dope, man. You know, from your highlights, and not just your highlights as a player, but also highlights as a coach, right? You are a very intense guy, right? You're very vocal, you know, loud. How does that, because I feel like, you know, we come from that, right? Our generation, you know, that's typically like the norm, right? But how does that old school approach to coaching translate for the younger guys, right? That you're coaching right now, and how do they respond to that kind of intensity? Because I feel like, you know, and I guess I want to fault our generation or the ones that come even before us. I want to fault them for saying that the younger ones are, you know, a little bit softer than we were, just because, you know, they're not going for that most of the time. You know what I mean? They are locked in more so than we were, because they just have all of this access to information, workouts. You know, they Google and stuff, they YouTube and stuff. They know what a good workout is and what isn't a good workout. And so they are super locked in. And so they are more so about the information as opposed to how the information is being delivered. How does your approach translate to the young guys, and how do they respond the way that you want them and need them to respond?
I think that every kid is different, but every kid wants to be loved. I think that's a constant, right? So when that's the main thing and you put time into them, it'll help. You know, when they know you love them, they'll run through a wall for you. When they know it's real, genuine, authentic love, they'll go through that wall for you. I tell the guys all the time, I mean, I'll kiss your ass, but I'm gonna kick it too. How it's gonna be. I mean, this is the generation. They can be standing right next to each other and won't speak to each other, but tweet each other or Instagram each other. They won't say nothing to each other verbally, physically, but they'll post each other. Like he'll take a picture of them and then post it, like, and it'll be in his story, but he wouldn't just say hi to him. So that's just this era, and it's not going the other way. So we got to figure out how to adapt to it. But here's what I will say. Here's what I noticed with this era of basketball player, and it kind of alludes to what you were talking about. I think, this is my personal opinion, I think that because there is so much resources for these kids and so many other avenues that they can travel, which is great, I think it makes them afraid to put all of their eggs in one basket because they are scared of failure and what that would look like socially, because society's scoreboard is social media. So when you put all your eggs in one basket, and when you put it all on the line and you do not succeed, you're embarrassed. And that's not a generation that I was privy to. So I can't sit here and tell you that we wouldn't have did the same thing had we been born 15 years. Since we didn't have all this, it was easy for us to say, I'm putting all my eggs in this one basket, and if I fail, so what? Who fucking sees it? It was easy for us to do it, so it's easy for us to look at them and say, why are you doing that, man? That's crazy. You just got to figure out ways to inspire them to be able to feel, to like, man, you're okay if you fall. Just get back, just get up. Try again. Try again. Look at Patrick. They laugh at his antics and all that shit. But my man is a photo of not giving up, of not having the most talent, but just willing himself and willing teams. And he played in Europe. And I remember watching his team play in Europe, and it was like, man, he was drafted this and this. And I watched him play in Europe. And then 4 or 5 years later, I see him get a deal with the Houston Rockets. And I'm like, man, that's what it looks like. And it ain't gonna happen for everybody. Everybody's path is different. Some guys got to make it through the back door. And it's not an easy door to get through right now. It's not. It's easier for when we came up, but there's so many more good players. So it's so easy to be like, you know, all right, man, with the next guy. So it is what it is. You just have to figure out ways. I say it all the time. You got to figure out ways to inspire. You have to inspire because the inspiration lasts longer than anything you can say. People remember how you make them feel. They don't remember what you say. They remember how you make them feel. And when you inspire somebody, that shit lasts.
Yeah, those are gems right there, man. I hope somebody's listening and, you know, paying close attention, man. Because, you know, we talk about mindset. Obviously, you know, life is upward of what, 80%, you know, mental. You know, if you know you can do it, if you see it for yourself, you know, before you actually get it done, then, you know, you setting yourself up for success. So really appreciate you dropping those gems, man.
I'm gonna for sure let all the high schoolers in my DMs, you know, asking me, you got any advice? I mean, I'm gonna just tell them to go tap into this interview because everything that you're saying, it resonates with me because it like mirrors my journey in the way that I was thinking. And like you said, like once I went to Summer League, I was already like, damn, it's not the NBA, but I feel like, all right, I played in a game. So then I'm like, all right, I guess I'm about to go dominate Europe. But that was the difference. It was like, okay, I just want to taste the NBA, but I'm about to go dominate Europe. And now that I'm here in Europe, I'm like, I you know, every time I step on the court, I'm like, can't none of y'all really mess with me for real. And it's really easy. But that was my mindset every single day because it's like, to me, the pinnacle was the league. So when I fell a few pegs down, it's like, oh, y'all don't even know, like, what, you know, like what I'm trained to do in the words of Kevin Hart. And I'm like, I'm finna assassinate y'all. And so that's dope. That's dope hearing that. And just to really quick switch gears, I know you got to get up out of here soon. We had Mike James on the show a few episodes ago. He went super dope viral. He had a quote about Steph calling him one-dimensional. You know Mike, I know Mike, everybody know Mike. Was that one of the moments where you was like, damn, or was that like, I see his point, essentially?
I seen it both ways. You can't say anything about Steph Curry. Steph Curry is a bad man. And I think that what Mike James was trying to say, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he was trying to say, some people get it a little harder than Steph. Like they created a little, like, because they always have the ball and they got to do it with the ball in their hands, i.e. Harden, i.e. Irving. But what Curry does is he's so dynamic because your whole defense has to pay attention to him all game long. He creates so many points, even when he does not score, he's creating points because 3 guys may go to him. And then there might be a layup for somebody. I'm watching the finals the other day and he's just sprinting off the screens all game and guys are just walking in for layups. So you can't even look at just his points. His imprint on the game is so impactful. I don't know. I mean, I love Mike to death, but Steph just got 4, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. And Steph just put himself in a group of gentlemen that you can't really say too much about a Steph Curry. You can't.
Right.
You just gotta praise.
Yeah.
Show him love.
Yeah, Steph, a different type of animal, man. You know what? Shaq was talking to me about this earlier, man. He was talking about Steph, that is. He was talking about how he maybe stole 1 or 2 of Lil Will's moves or whatever. Are you familiar with that story? I
am. I'd seen they posted that video on Baller's Life, and Steph said, I think I just learned 2 moves.
Oh, yeah.
I never showed my son that till like maybe 2 months later. I didn't even show him. Like I said, I want to keep him pure, you know. And when he meets these guys, I want him to be like a kid,
right?
You know, because obviously we have access to, you know, resources. Jamal brings all these guys in for pro-am, and we get to meet him. So when he meets him, I want him to feel like, oh my God, I just met Steph Curry. Not like, hey man, you saw my video, you said this about my video. No,
Mm-hmm.
be like a kid, be happy and pure and authentic. And that's what I want for him.
That's fire.
Speaking of the program, I heard a big fish coming.
Yeah, I heard that too. If he
The
does,
biggest fish.
we actually have elite camp this week, so it would suck because I wouldn't be able to go. But at the same time, if he does decide to bless our city with his presence, that would be big time. Because it's a big void in our city. We have all these NBA guys and we have no team. And I remember growing up, and Gary Payton was a big part of my life early. I went to his camps when I was little, and I played for Gary Payton All-Stars. So he was a big part of my life. Being able to go to a Sonic game was a huge part, and that made me want to play in the league like that. You know, being able to go down there and watch Iverson come in town, or the Sacramento Kings and Mitch Richmond and all those guys come in town, and Sharif Abdul-Rahim, I wanted to be a part of that. And I remember Gary Payton's All-Star game he used to have at the Key Arena. He let me ball boy, and it was Penny Hardaway, Weber, and I'm passing balls, but I'm like, man, I got to get here. And it was it was right before I started ninth grade. I was like, man, I have to play in the league. So when our kids get to see that, you know, if they get a chance to see him come in, I'm not sure if he's coming or not, but it would be great. But it drives you. It drives you. Like if a kid came in and there's like 5 kids in that audience that's going to be like, I'm going to be LeBron James. Now you may not be LeBron James. You might be Marjan Beauchamp. That's pretty damn good though, right? Pretty damn good. I remember Marjan walking in the gym and doing it. I remember Zach LaVine being a kid going to the pro-am. It happens. It happens. Like one guy may be the person that sparks that kid to be great.
I have a final question about, you know, because you've been dropping gems nonstop, and I kind of want to continue to tap into that when it comes to, you know, the kids. I did my research on you, obviously, and I read something where you started off as a shooting guard, and then in college, they kind of switched you to a point guard, and you wasn't really with it all the way. So basically what I'm trying to ask is, when you see something like that and you look at it as, or you're faced with adversity, what's your advice for younger guys or girls to, you know, not look at adversity as like a roadblock, but more so as a challenge? And then, you know, obviously with challenge comes opportunity to kind of just diversify, and, you know, maybe it opens you up to something that's completely, you know, on a different lane, but you have much more success in that lane that you hadn't even thought before. Like how do you, you know, what's your advice for a young athlete?
I think there's a level of stubbornness that you have to have as far as like, no, I'm going to be good at this regardless. Like, you're not going to tell me I'm not, but then there's also a level of coachability that you have to have. And that's the fine line that you have to find. And that's where you have to have good people in your corner that don't need nothing from you, that's going to give you honest truth. And for me, I had Jamal, I had my friend Alvin Snow, who played overseas, that's an agent now. I had Brandon, and I have all these guys that tell you the honest truth. And I remember when Coach Romar was like, I think my sophomore year, he had told me, like, because I think my sophomore year, I was probably our leading scorer or second leading scorer. And then my junior year, he was like, you're not going to score that much this year because we have good players around you. And I wasn't hearing that. And he didn't start me the first 5 games my junior year. And then I remember coming in, and we didn't start the season that well. And I remember coming in his office, he's like, you ready to be a point guard now? Because our team needs a point guard, and you have the ability to do it. And instead of packing my shit up and running and trying to transfer, I said, let's see how it works, because I knew I could do it. But scoring gets more attention. So what I didn't know is winning gets the most attention. So once I start becoming a point guard, we start winning, and everybody started to get noticed. And then I fell in love with making people better. It goes back to being this coach where I am. I fell in love with getting people better, making him come off screens, and then just becoming a leader and being okay with that and being comfortable in your skin and doing it. And I tell my son this, I'm like, you create what's cool. You don't have to follow a status quo. You can create what's cool. Like you can tie your shoes where both leathers touch each other on the side, where there's no shoestring showing, and you can wear your pants up really high, and you can tuck your jersey in hard, and you do the right things, and then you bust an ass. Every kid in America will follow what you look like. You can create what's cool if you just do it. You don't have to follow nothing. And that's kind of my mindset, and that's kind of what I like to teach. And to answer your question, like adversity is going to come. How you handle it, you gotta have good people in your corner that tell you the truth, and then you have to be willing to accept coachability. You have to be willing to accept coaching, because if you got good coaching, they're going to lead you the right way.
Facts.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope. So yeah, I don't got nothing left other than I'm gonna be selfish right now. And what would be your advice for me? I feel like I struggle with leadership and leading, especially like overseas. Like I'm looked at upon as one of the leaders, but like when I get in that situation, it makes my skin boil or the hair stand up on my neck, and I'm just like, I feel awkward. It feels wrong as far as people looking for me. But I can lead with actions, but it's not really the same as being a vocal leader or, kind of just stepping up and like, hey, we doing this now. Is there any advice that you kind of always have that, or is that something that you matured and learned?
I've always had it. My mom is loud, and she's a leader. She's been a leader of the community for forever. She was a cheerleading coach of every football team I played for. But here's what I'll tell you, because I've watched guys transitioning and being leaders. Brandon Roy was really quiet, and then he became a leader. I would say to you, find one thing particularly that is a non-negotiable for you, and then you pick that one thing and you lead that. So whatever it is that you find on the court, you like, man, we ain't doing that. Like, I ain't gonna say nothing to you guys about no, we ain't doing that though. And you find that one thing, and then that'll make you comfortable, because that's something you can speak on every single time. Like, no, because I'll never do that. And then once you get comfortable doing that, find another thing. And then before you know it, there'll be about 4 or 5 categories where you'll be leading all of them.
Dope. Thank you.
Yeah, man. This has been, it's crazy. I know we're at the end of our time, Shaq. I'm not trying to cut this short if you got some more stuff, but, I just wanted to say real quick, man, this is probably one of my favorite conversations that we've had on this show, man. Obviously, man, it's been nothing but gems and good info. And I hope our viewers and listeners got something from this. It's been absolutely phenomenal, I feel like, man. So appreciate your time, man. Absolutely.
Thank you guys for having me, man. You guys doing awesome, man. You guys being worldwide. I'm hearing you guys. I'm seeing y'all everywhere.
We trying, man. We trying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. That's all Shaq, though, man. He's the man with the vision.
Yep. That's all right. There you go. You leading in this, Shaq.
Yeah. But one last thing though. Hold on. One last thing though, right? Because it's kind of tradition for a player's choice to, we kind of nasty with it. So I want to put you in a hot spot for a second. If you can give me, and you could say, you know what, I'm not doing that because I'm just solid like that. But if you will indulge me and give me the best players to come out of Seattle, like a top 5 or something like that. You don't have to rank them. You could just list off some names or whatever, because obviously, young generation in there as well, Apollo, DeJounte, Zach, but even, the older generation, y'all got some hoopers. So I want to know, man, from the steward of Seattle, it seems like you like the gatekeeper of everything over here.
I think there's about 4 guys that are going to be on everybody's list. Okay. Roy, Crawford, Terry, and Isaiah Thomas. So those 4 will be on everybody's list, as Nate Robinson, 5. They'll be on everybody's list, right? So then you start going back down the line. John Stockton is from Spokane, Washington. Is anybody better than John Stockton?
Yeah.
Is anybody better than Stockton? You start looking at the Luke Rittenhours of the world. Like, there's so many of them, but I think those 5, I'm not forgetting somebody, I probably am, but those 5, I would probably Nate, IT, Roy, Jason Terry, Crawford. Those would be my 5. Anyway, does Michael Porter count as a Seattle guy? He went to Nathan Hill High School.
Yeah.
I'll leave that up for the Seattle guys to decide that, but yeah.
DeJounte Murray had a 30 and 30 game in high school. Has that ever been done? 30 rebounds. I don't know.
That's a fact. That's a fact. All right. But we'll let you get up out of here. Thanks a lot, though.
I appreciate you guys, man. You guys have
Yes,
a blessed
sir.
day.
You too.